Welcome to mt4gadgets.com and this new video where we are going to see the basic syntax in the MQL5 language as well as some of the best practices to use while programming your custom tools. Because this is a beginner course, we want to start with some of the fundamentals necessary to start coding. And if you have already coded in other languages, this might be not new, might be something that you already know, but still, if you are getting to know and starting to programming in MQL5, it's a very good start. So first, let's start with some very simple syntax rules. MQL5 is a structured language, so it means the syntax has a very simple structure. You can start your lines with an operator or a data type or an object. Or it could also be a variable or constant. In MQL5, you also group your code in separate lines or in sections or in areas, however you prefer to call it. And this grouping is performed through parentheses or brackets. So depending on the area of the code that you are enclosing into the parentheses or brackets, this will become a section of the code that goes all together. And lastly, the semicolon. So most lines, with the exception of maybe the ones with the parentheses or brackets, need to be closed with a semicolon to indicate to the software that that line is closed and there's nothing else to process in there. In terms of best practices are very common amongst different programming languages. It's nothing new, and MQL5 as well has some very good best practices. So first of all, I would say to always use descriptive and consistent naming conventions, regardless of MQL5 or any other programming language. Naming conventions make reading and understanding the code much easier. Leverage case, uppercase, lowercase, capitalization, all of these types and consistency in the code makes your code more readable. Number 3, indentation. So to create a nice structure and more legibility of your code, indentation is very useful, and that comes also together with grouping section of code with brackets. Related, place brackets deliberately. So in some cases you might not need to add a bracket. So for example, that could happen with an if statement or some other conditional operators where you're not required to add a bracket, but I would say use a bracket anyway. It just makes the code cleaner. Number 5, add comments. Add comments. I'm never gonna be tired of saying it. Add the comments to your code to indicate and explain what the code does. Because if you are new or you are collaborating with someone else, comments are very useful to understand what the code is doing. 6, optimize with functions. You might not need it when you start coding with very simple programs, but functions will come very useful later on when you start developing more complex tools. Lastly, handle errors robustly. The error handling is one of the most important things in coding and programming, especially when your program is handling your money. So if you think about a trading robot, an expert advisor that is trading your money, opening and closing orders, you need to make sure that the code is running as you expect. And you need to make sure also that possible errors that come up are handled in some way. So you either stop your code or you perform some action to mitigate or to resolve the errors that are coming up. So this was a mouthful, I understand. There's some very simple syntax rules and quite a few best practices that I recommend using and getting used to when coding. And I'd like to see some example of code just to see what it looks like and some of the best practices adopted in the code. So let's jump in. Here we are in MetaEditor, and this is a very simple section of code. It's a basic script, and you can see some of the syntax. So for example, the first line is a comment, and this is one of the best practices. So what we add comments to explain what the code does. Second line starts with an operator or a data type. Void is a data type that basically does not return for a function that does not return value. And on start is the predefined function in MetaTrader 5. Open the bracket and close the bracket to group sections of code. And again, use comments, simple syntax. You see the indentation. Indentation is because all of this code is running at the same level in the same brackets. So this is basically a group, and it kind of shows you the hierarchy of the code and the program. Moving on, double, that's a data type, and this is a declaration and initialization of a variable with the value of the bit for the current symbol, and we close the line with a semicolon to say there is nothing more in this line needed. Another comment, and then a function to print the current value of the bid price. As you can see, very basic code. It shows you the syntax, the basic syntax to use, very important points, how to start, how to finish, brackets and grouping, and naming conventions. So try to be descriptive with your variables and add comments, and try to really take the habit of using best practices, because in the long run it will make a difference and it will really help you develop better code and better programs. So here we go. We have seen some of the basic syntax in MQL5, some of the best practices. Hopefully you learned something new, and if you haven't already, come check us out at mt4gadgets.com. Hope to see you soon.